As of December 6, 2025, Google has two flagship AI features that to the average user sound almost identical. They both carry the deep moniker. They both take a long time to generate an answer, and they both claim to be the smarter than the standard model. But if you are a developer or a power user, confusing these two is a dangerous mistake. Architecturally, they are quite the opposites. If you use the wrong one for the wrong task, you are wasting either money on expensive hidden tokens or hours chasing hallucinations. Here's the thesis for today's video. Gemini Deep Research is an agent. It's a system that does things. Gemini Deep Think is a reasoning engine. It is a model that solves things. One operates on top of the model, while the other operates inside the model weights. We're going to deconstruct this dual architecture. We will look at how DeepThink just hit a massive 41% on humanities last exam, a score previously thought impossible. And we'll break down the pricing traps that are currently lurking in some of these APIs. Let's get under the hood. So, let's start with Gemini Deep Research. When you use this feature, you're not engaging in a single inference call. You are activating a compound AI system. Think of deep research less like a chatbot and more like an autonomous employee. So when you give it a prompt, like analyze the competitive landscape of SaaS CRM pricing, the model doesn't answer immediately. First, a specialized planner layer breaks that request down into an execution graph. It creates a to-do list. It then utilizes that tool, specifically a headless browser or Google Search API, and this is crucial. It navigates a depth-first approach. It doesn't just read Google snippets. It enters the websites, finds the pricing tab, clicks the link to the enterprise terms, any of those PDFs that are in there, and ingests the actual document. This architecture relies entirely on one specific spec, the a million plus context window for the tokens. In the standard RAG setup, you grab a few snippets, but deep research might pull 100 plus sources. It needs massive RAM to hold all that messy, unstructured data in context simultaneously to spot the patterns. So deep research simulates the thinking part by doing. It's an iterative loop of plan, search, read, refine, plan, and then finally write, and essentially write the report to the user. If your task requires fresh data from the outside world, you should use deep research. It is a system designed to minimize giving up and maximize source verification. Now let's flip the switch to Gemini Deep Think, also known as the thinking mode in Gemini 3.0 Pro. Unlike deep research, this is not browsing the web. This is a singular model inference, but with a twist. DeepThink utilizes reinforcement learning optimized for reasoning. When you ask it a hard math problem, it generates hidden tokens. It is literally talking to itself, critiquing its own logic before it ever sends a signal character to you. And here is the December 2025 update that matters. While earlier reasoning models like OpenAI's O1 often reason linearly, step A, then B, then C, Gemini 3.0 DeepThink introduces parallel thinking. It spawns multiple reasoning branches simultaneously to test different hypotheses. Imagine asking it to solve a complex coding puzzle. Branch A tries a recursive solution, branch B tries an iterative solution, branch C checks for edge cases. This model evaluates these branches in parallel, proves the bad logic, and converges on the best answer. This approach is why we are seeing such absurd benchmark numbers. On GPQA Diamond, which is a PhD level science questions, DeepThink is hitting 93 to 94%. In coding specifically, on ARC AGI2 benchmark, it hits 45.1%, demonstrating it can one-shot complex architectural problems that usually require a human engineer to sit and think for some time. Deep think is for when the answer is implied by the question. but requires heavy computation or logic to extract. It's not looking outward, it's looking inward. Now, if you're a developer building on Gemini APIs, this is where you need to pay attention, or you could just derail your project. Let's talk about the thinking tax in here. In the API, thinking models generate massive amounts of hidden output tokens. You don't see them, but you pay for them. A simple logic question might burn 5,000 to 10,000 tokens just in the reasoning overhead. Since output tokens are usually 3 to 10 times more expensive than the input tokens, a single deep think query is significantly pricier than a standard prompt. On the other hand, what about deep research? Here's the catch. There's no deep research API at this point, at least. You cannot just make an API call that says the mode equals deep research. To replicate deep research on your own app, you would have to build the agentic loop yourself. You take Gemini 3.0 Pro, you connect it to Google Search grounding tool, which costs around $35 for 1,000 grounding requests, and you write the code that loops the model back on itself. This is why, for individual consumers, the Gemini Advanced or Gemini Pro subscription at $19.99 a month is actually quite a good steal. You get unlimited access to Deep Research Agent and the Deep Think toggle without worrying about the per token cost of these reasoning steps or the fan out queries that the Deep Research might do for you. So where is this going? Right now, these are two separate nodes, but in the future, and likely not only just Gemini but the industry, is a convergence of the two. Imagine an agent that can browse 100 websites, but then pauses to perform parallel reasoning chains on the data it found before writing the report. Now that is the holy grail. But for now, in late 2025, you have to choose your weapon. If you are building your own research agent using the Gemini 3.0 API, I've dropped a link to the documentation below, specifically the section on managing token limits, so you don't get surprised by the bill. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into the architecture of AI. Thank you.